In any Agile project, the big question is always, are we actually on track? It's a tough one to answer. So today, we're going to cut through all the noise and look at 4 essential reports that give you a clear, data-driven answer. Let's jump right in.
You know, it's so easy to mistake just being busy for making real progress. Your team is putting in the hours, sure, but are they moving the needle in the right direction? That's the difference between feeling productive and knowing you're on track. And these reports, they give you that knowledge. So here's our game plan. We'll start at the ground level with the sprint burn down. Then we'll zoom out to planning with the velocity report. After that, we'll diagnose the workflow using a cumulative flow diagram. And finally, we'll get the big picture with the release burn down. 4 different lenses on your project's progress. Okay, first up, let's talk about the daily pulse of your project, the sprint itself. This first report is basically your team's daily dashboard. What I love about the sprint burn down chart is how simple it is. That straight line you see, that's the perfect world, the ideal path to getting everything done. But that jagged line, well, that's reality. That's your team's actual progress. This chart gives you a super quick visual answer to that daily question. Are we going to finish this sprint on time? Seriously, think of this as your early warning system. If your reality line starts floating way above the ideal line, you know you're falling behind. It lets the team stop right then and there and ask, hey, what's going on? So you can make adjustments mid-sprint, not when it's already too late. All right, so we've got the daily view covered. Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about planning for the future. Our second report is all about looking at what you've done in the past to predict what you can do next. This right here is a velocity report, and it's fantastic for showing your team's natural rhythm. Each one of those bars is a sprint, and the height shows how much work the team actually completed. This isn't an estimate or a guess. It's a historical record of what your team can consistently deliver. Now, here's a really important point. Velocity isn't about pushing your team to go faster. Not at all. It's about becoming more predictable. Once you know your team's average velocity, you can make realistic commitments for future sprints. It's all about finding a sustainable pace and avoiding burnout. Okay, on to our third report. This one is like an MRI for your team's process. The cumulative flow diagram is basically a powerful traffic jam detector that shows you exactly where work is piling up and getting stuck. Now, I know this chart can look a little complex at first, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Each of those colored bands represents a different stage in your workflow. You know, stuff like to do, in progress, in review, and so on. The chart just shows how many tasks are sitting in each stage at any point in time. And here's the trick to reading it. If you see one of those middle bands, let's say the blue in progress one, start getting wider and wider over time. That's a huge red flag. It's a bottleneck. It means work is coming into that stage way faster than it's leaving. This diagram tells you exactly where you need to focus to get things flowing smoothly again. So we've covered the daily view, the planning view, and the workflow view. Now it's time to zoom all the way out for that 30,000-foot perspective on the entire project with our last report, the release burn down. This is the chart that answers the question every single stakeholder is asking. Are we going to hit our release date? Instead of just looking at one sprint, it tracks all the remaining work for the entire release. It really is the ultimate big picture view of your progress. But here's where this chart really shines, managing scope changes. Because let's be real, new features and requests are always going to pop up. When they do, that burn down line goes up. And this makes the impact on the release date crystal clear to everyone, which forces a real, honest conversation about priorities and trade-offs. So let's just pull all of this together, shall we? We've walked through 4 different reports, and each one gives you a totally different but equally valuable perspective on the health of your project. As you can see here, it's all about having the right tool for the job. You use the sprint burn down for your daily check-in. You use velocity to plan for what's next. You use the cumulative flow to find and fix those pesky bottlenecks. And you use the release burn down to keep your eye on the finish line. Put them all together, and you've got a complete toolkit for keeping any Agile project on the rails. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Which of these lenses does your project need to look through right now? Are you struggling with your day-to-day execution? Or maybe it's long-term planning. Is your workflow feeling a bit clunky? Or are you just worried about hitting that big release goal? The right report can give you exactly the clarity you need to move forward.